Hello everyone, welcome to the Cyber Weekly. The Cyber Weekly is a podcast which talks about cybersecurity and all matters related to cybersecurity with book reviews monthly with me, Deogratius, Okello, your host, and Josephine, Olok, my co-host. In this week's podcast, we talk about email compromise. If you're email compromised, you'll get to know about that. We talk about two updates you badly need to make sure you update your device. Then finally we end with work scams. And let's begin. So we shall start with the question of what's NAS API.
NAS.api is more of a database of a breach of several breaches which were basically collecting data from people's browsers and all that. So recently it was actually like 4 months ago, one of the security companies flagged it, and they let the guys of Haveibeenpwned to know about it. And these guys ended up adding this to their database, and that's how the rest of us got to know about it. Though right now, many people have not yet published a lot of information about it, apart from two, which is Bleeping Computers and the Troy Hand, I believe. Yeah, so that's it about the NAS API.
So what you're saying is that they have access to compromised credentials.
Yeah, it's basically a database which was hacked. Like it has been some time, and it was being sold on the dark web. So when they got to know about it, that's when they were able to publish in this public domain of Have I Been Pwned. With Have I Been Pwned, basically to show you, all you have to do is just put in your email, and they'll show you where they've flagged it in the different darknet rooms.
Okay, yeah. So if we can perhaps dive in deeper, I have thanks to your links, I've used the I have been pwned website, and I also found that my credentials have been breached. And for our listeners, pwned, have I been pwned? Pwned is spelled PWNED, which is a misspelling of the word owned. I think traditionally it's a gamer slang that means a person being totally and completely dominated by an opponent in any situation. In the hacker and programming community or cyber security forum, it's used to describe obtaining unauthorized control of someone else's computer. Sometimes it's spelled PWND, sometimes PWNT, PWN3D. So I found that my credentials
Seems you did
have been
some serious
breached.
research.
Yes, yes, I did. I had not heard about this, so I was very curious.
Okay.
I found that most of my credentials have been from old incidents, but more worrying was more recent ones where you have a site like a Deezer music streaming site called Deezer,
Yeah.
then Zynga, which is a game developer in 2022, then Question Pro in 2022. I was surprised that there was a LinkedIn was hacked, but that was 2016. So I think the good thing is that when you do look at the website, I think we'll share the link.
Yeah.
It provides a warning that you've been pwned, but also indicates that your computer may have been infected with malware. So I guess it is recommended to change your passwords. Obviously, having longer passwords and all that is better to all your sites.
Speaking of
So can
that,
you just, yeah,
I was among the victims. So
okay, yeah, I
this
was going to
very
say, so
nice,
what has been your
AP.
experience?
Yes, so I was one of the victims, but I think it was a long time ago. This database is not new because this happened, yeah, around 2021 is when I had for a cybersecurity person, for you to say that 2021 is the last time you changed your password, that is not a good sign. So
Not
yeah,
at all. Not at all.
yes, so yeah, that was the last time I changed it. So when I saw that, I actually had to change it, and also what saved me was because actually when I joined cybersecurity, one of the things which pushed me towards that was an attack which happened to me by I had an Instagram page which is if you go and search for it, it's called Do Movement. So I used to, create my different, should I say, uh, what do you call them? Those motivational writings. So I used to write some
Yeah.
here and there, then post, edit. That's how I got to know about Photoshop and all that. So yeah, that's why I used to practice. So a bit of it was that. Then I also I also worked on something to do with. Let me gather my thoughts. I Yes, during that time I worked on an Instagram post and it was called Do Movement. Unfortunately, someone hacked it. I think at that time I was using the same credentials, you know, at that time. So they were able to hack it and then, you know, start, following random people here and there, changing the pictures. I was like, okay. But what saved my Gmail was was two-factor authentication because they showed me that a person from one of those countries which is known for hacking, yes, was trying to access my email several times. But since it was having two-factor authentication, they could go past that point. So yeah, I think around that time, that's the credentials they were able to take around that time. That's I guess that's where I became a victim of this NAS API. So
But I guess you really learned a lot from that.
yeah, I learned a lot from that. Yeah, as I was able to pick up, improve my security here and there. So I've really pushed towards a lot of things now. Nowadays also things like password managers. I use them a lot. So now like the one I would recommend is Bitwarden. Now with Bitwarden, you just have to have a master password, and with this master password you're able to store these other passwords inside it. And if you add two-factor authentication, you're able to now reinforce the security here and there. So yeah, it's one of those things which you learn the hard way.
Yeah, it's true. And does in Bitwarden does it help you generate passwords for the other sites, or those are now passwords you generate yourself?
It helps you generate passwords for yourself. Actually, yeah, it randomly generates passwords. Yeah, so I think I'll share a link of how to do that on in the show notes. But basically, just as long as you've already accessed it, and you are able to randomly generate passwords, the length of the password, what, all those things. So yeah, that's the benefit of a password manager. So the most used nowadays is one password, I believe, and also Bitwarden. So but Bitwarden is like a community one which people like a lot about it. The reason being is again one of the options is you can actually use it for free and still get all the most of the options. Maybe if you now want to add things like UB keys and all that to help reinforce the security. For our listeners who don't know UB keys, it's basically digital keys which you can be using to actually, it's more like a USB you connect, then you're able to save a password of some sort another way of authentication. Yeah, so yeah, if you want those additional options, you pay for that. But under normal circumstances, just the normal one is also really good. So I highly recommend Bitwarden.
Is Bitwarden free? Or do you need a
Yeah, they have
subscription?
the free option
Okay.
where you get basically access to everything, like the normal everything you require for a proper password manager, from the two-factor authentication to all those other options. Yeah, you get them. So when you have it, though, as long as you have like set the password up, it's like yeah, or you have that option of just clicking 3 4 clicks, then it will automatically put the password for you after you putting the master password, obviously. Yeah, so they're really good.
And one password, is that a subscription based?
Yeah, that one is actually one people love the most because they have additional features which are better than Bitwarden, though they don't have a free option. But
Mm,
many people also prefer that compared to Bitwarden. But yeah, they all work the same way, though one
yeah.
password has a slight edge because of the additional features. Like you can store, like when you're traveling, you might have some temporary like some passwords you would want to maybe share to a particular device and all that. So it gives you that option of like sharing of passwords and all that in a secure manner. So yeah, that's an additional benefit which it has, plus other features. Yeah.
Yeah. So an interesting experience for you, I guess.
Yeah.
If it from what it taught you.
Yeah, the problem is you learn the
So
hard way.
mm,
Yeah.
so I guess this talks to the question of our listeners, like what how do they know that they're safe? It is going to that site, I think.
Okay.
Check
Now,
out the yeah.
for knowing whether you're safe or not, there are basically two things you have to put into consideration. One is not having the same password for every account. Two is making sure that you provide any application which has two-factor authentication, use it. So make sure you have two-factor authentication so that if the passwords which are breached, you're able to have that failover of the person can't access your account without some particular credentials. Whether it's a Google Authenticator, yeah, they're not perfect, but it's a better alternative compared to just having a single factor. If they get your password, then you're done. So yeah, and definitely check out Have I Been Pwned and make sure that you are not among the victims. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Do you have anything more to say about um the have I been pawned, or we can move on?
Yeah, we can move on. That's it.
Okay, so we're looking now at the Zoom update,
Okay,
the
now
required update to version 5.60, 16.0. Can you tell us
okay.
about that one?
Now this 16.0 is the weak one. There is a new version called 5.17. Uh, the reason why I put 5.16.0 it is for my memory because I'd have forgotten those numbers. But so 5.16 point 0, the lower versions, anything lower than that is vulnerable to this attack. And if you check its CVE number, I believe is 8.8. For those who don't know about CVEs, it's common vulnerabilities and exposures. So it's a way of tracking vulnerabilities. So obviously, the higher the number, the higher the level of damage it can cause. So this one is you really need to make sure you update your Zoom as soon as possible to avoid getting to this scenario, because now this allows someone who is not authenticated to do privilege escalation. Basically, what privilege escalation means is I've access to your machine, and now I'm trying to become the administrator and be able to manage your machine as if you're the one managing it, or try to push towards like the crown jewels of your organization. So I've hacked, let's say Josephine, I've hacked your machine, and I was able to access maybe the IT department or the financial department's machines, like that. That is now privilege escalation. So yeah, that's basically how it works. Then the next one, which is the one for Chrome, yeah, there is
Before you go, sorry, before you go to the Chrome update, so the Zoom update means, is this going to happen through Zoom? Somebody, if I'm on a call with somebody on Zoom, for instance, then they have that access, or how does it manifest?
Okay, that is a good question. Basically, when you're on the internet on your machine, because this particular vulnerability affects mostly the Windows machines. So if you're on your machine and you just click Zoom, you'll be able to access Zoom. But the first thing Zoom will do is look for the updates, the latest updates of the application. So it will tell you, do you want to install updates? Some of us will be like later. But this is a key vulnerability, so make sure you update your Zoom. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So if you have essentially you have an unpatched version of Zoom, then you're vulnerable. That's what it is.
Yeah. You have
Okay.
an unpatched version.
Okay. All right. Go on to the next one on Chrome.
So now for the Chrome, it's not that different from the Zoom one, though. If you notice the CVE numbers, now for CVE numbers, notice the first part of the second portion of it is the year. So this is 2024, meaning it is like the latest. We're in January, so it's a new vulnerability. And if you notice, there are very few sources which are actually having the information concerning it, because obviously you don't want to disclose a lot of information concerning what is actually happening, since it's a 0-day attack, meaning many have, like, even if it's a 0-day attack, they've already come with a remediation for it. But since it affects multiple devices, they have not disclosed a lot of information concerning what it does. But basically, the talking of the Chrome V8, it's one of those additions inside the Chrome browser, which is affected by this bug, and basically it's being exploited. So as early as possible, please update your Chrome also. Now for Chrome, I think you go to the settings, then I think there's about my device, about Chrome, something like that. And when you click on that, it will be able to check for the updates. So ensure you also update that.
Okay, well that's good. I think those are. I think it's also the challenge is also if you don't you also have the option of not updating, which is where you then become vulnerable. You need to be constantly, if you need to update and say you check that your browser is saying update, then you should update, not ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
So The next portrait is now Josephine, all the way. So, tell us about the story of these work scams. People are dying to look for new jobs, new everything since it's a new year. Could you shed more light on that?
Yeah, there are many work scams. I think, and the people want to work online, especially, but I think they are quite common, and I think they also come in different forms. So I think one of the main ones is fake job listings. So I think there is an article on fake how adverts were running off Facebook about you can apply for work and all that. And I think in the desperation that people have of being able to work, then they normally the fake job postings, for instance, normally they promise a high paying job. Normally they don't expect you to have experience, and sometimes a lot of times they're posted on what can be considered a legitimate job boards. Of course, normally, if you click on the link, for instance, you will go to a fake website, and often you will also be asked for personal information, which normally you wouldn't really want to share online. And then there are other scams as well. You've got, I think, the scams that we know, you have those pyramid schemes um, where there's a promise of making money if you recruit others. There's also phishing scams where you've got an email coming to you, with from a legitimate company or what seems to be a legitimate company, a bank, credit card, and asking you to click a link to provide more personal information. They also, I think we've seen those in Uganda as well, where somebody promises that if you give them some money, that you can get a job. And I think saying give me this much money, then I'll promise you a job or I'll promise you whatever it is, a benefit or whatever it is. Of course, um, real employers don't normally ask for money up front. So those are some of the scams. There are other scams like which will promise you money, like jobs which say high pay for simple jobs like data entry or for online surveys and such things. So there are a lot of scams like that out there. I try to look for data on the scams, um, but I think there's not that much data. I think there's not that much reported, but I think it's on the increase in Africa. I think a lot of advanced fee scams are there where you're being asked to pay to get a job. There's desperate need for jobs, so people do that. In Asia, it's a lot about pyramid schemes and phishing scams. In Europe, a lot of phishing scams, especially through social media platforms. Then also in other areas, it's a lot about advanced fee scams as well. Um, yeah, so those are some of the scams that have been the job scams.
So, what basic remediations would one need to do in order to avoid being a victim of circumstance?
To remediate or to avoid?
Both.
Okay, so first one is to remediate. So you've been
Okay,
scammed,
risk
right?
mitigation and risk what? Risk
So
risk
the first one is
transference.
so the first one, transparency. So the first one is you have been scammed, right?
Mhm.
So I think a lot of times when you've been scammed, it means you've given away your personal information, and that could be information relating to your bank account, etc. So I think the first thing is to get in touch with your bank if you feel if you had given away financial information. Um, Also, sometimes the scammers are, and a lot of them are online, but so there's sometimes email exchange. So it's important that you stop the communication with that scammer. I once tried to join an online job platform. I can't remember what it was called. And I applied. I wanted to try out these online jobs, and I applied for one. And then I got an email from someone saying, um, if you could send me this much amount of money, we'll give you this job. And I thought it was curious, but so I reported it to the platform, and they said, these are some of the things that you should never do. Somebody asks you for job things, never respond, but also stop the communication. So stop the communication. You block the whatever it is, the emails that they're sending you or the calls. And of course, I think it's important that if you've given away personal information like your account details or passwords and such things, that you change those. So basically, you'll want to stop the damage, really. Um, then, of course, I think depending on the nature of the scam or how much you feel you've lost, it might help you to get some information together about the scam, so that you can report it even better. Of course, if you're going to report to the police, that's the evidence you need. If you're going to report to the platform that you're using, perhaps that's the evidence you would need. So I think it's important that you report it as well. And then maybe, like you've learned from the experience, right?
Yeah,
You need to
yeah,
learn from the experience, because uh, a lot of these job offers are kind of too good to be true. So you need to kind of start getting familiar with what does a scam really look like. I mean, sometimes your intuition is saying, this is just too good to be true. Sometimes that intuition means that it is too good to be true. So if it's too good to be true, then it probably is too good. It's not true. Um, and learn from it, because you don't want to go through that process again. Uh, and it's one of those things, you should never ever share personal information online. Most employers don't ask for money up front before they give out jobs, so don't do that. Just, and do your research before you apply. So if something really looks good, then start looking at that company. Google, do the search, have some level of skepticism. So just research before you even think about engaging with them in terms of providing personal information. Obviously, it's best not to until you're sure. And there are many review sites like Trust. There's a site that is it Trust Advisor? The advisor sites, if you're going online, where you can get some reviews on particular companies, etc. So yes, don't share personal information if you don't trust the person. Be careful about clicking on links and on emails and such things. Learn what the many there's much information about how to tell whether a link is fake or it's coming from wrong. It might look like LinkedIn, but just be very careful, because it might look like LinkedIn, but it might have two L's in the beginning or something like that, and it'll just send you to a fake website. So yeah, so I think that's what I would say. But it's just the level of skepticism that you have to have when dealing with online is really important. Be very skeptical. Don't share information with someone you don't trust, someone you don't an organization that you don't trust and you don't know anything about. Yeah.
okay. I think also another thing is on social media, make sure you don't, like, there's specific places where you can look for a job. LinkedIn Jobs is there. We've also shared some in our previous podcasts where you could get a job without being worried that you're being scammed. So ensure you go to trusted and reliable sources for looking for a job, not someone just randomly texting you. They all want manners. Oh, please help yourself.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that might be a good idea as well, once you've been scammed, especially through malware or whatever, that you scan your computer, scan it for malware, so that and maybe update your antivirus. Do a thorough scan just to make sure that there's nothing still sitting on your computer.
Also that. And also these things over here, Yeah, you're supposed to download a specific application to apply for a job. It's
Yeah,
not a good
definitely
idea.
not.
So they'll
Yeah,
just be creating serious ways of stealing your information. So ensure
yeah.
just to avoid such. I guess with that we will just. Josephine, do you have final remarks for today?
No, I think that nothing further. I think it's just online stuff. Just be very careful about online emails that you don't know. Just have a high level of mistrust, if you like, before you start engaging on a personal level with any entity, any person, any individual.
Okay. I guess with that we shall end here and we'll pick it up from the next one. Have a good day.
Thank you, dear.